What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Perimeter Defense Basketball Podcast, where we break down the game of Beyond the Box scores. Today, we're locking in on two high-level first-round matchups in this upcoming 2026 NBA playoffs. The Knicks versus the Hawks in the East, and the Nuggets versus the Timberwolves out West. So if you're tapped into playoff basketball, you already know. This is where matchups, adjustments, and execution decide everything. Now make sure you like, subscribe, and stay locked in for playoff coverage throughout the postseason. So let's start in the East with the Knicks and the Hawks. So let's take a little quick snapshot of the Hawks and the Knicks and how they got here. The Knicks were a 53-win team this season, displaying elite half-court offense and being a half-court team overall. The Hawks won 46 games, and they finished with and after the All-Star break, they were 19-5, had a solid second half of the season to kind of propel themselves into the playoffs after being a perennial play-in team over the last few years. So good for them. Now, as far as the season series, they were close games, physical and competitive, and I certainly hope it holds true in this first round because I love nothing more than highly competitive playoff basketball. But this series could come down to one thing, and that's the identity battle. Control versus pace. The Knicks want a half-court grind, whereas the Hawks want to put their athleticism on display and get out in transition, creating all kind of open-court chaos. Atlanta is top 5 in pace, while the Knicks, on the other hand, are a bottom 5 team when it comes to pace. So whoever controls tempo could very well control this series. Now also, a compelling matchup within this matchup, it'd be the battle of the two Jalens. Jalen Brunson, who's the face of the franchise for the Knicks, and Jalen Johnson, who's an up-and-coming player in the league, but also one of the best players, if not the best players, for the Atlanta Hawks. And while these two players may not necessarily match up and defend and guard each other in this series, the fact that those two players are the best two players, it shall come down to which of the Jalens will be the better of the Jalens. We got Jalen Brunson, who's a 3-level scorer, who operates with precision in tight spaces, and Jalen Johnson, a positionless engine, stuffing the stat sheet night and day. Now, as far as Jalen Johnson, expect that OG Anunoby to take that matchup, so that'll be a battle of strength versus versatility, and we should see who will win that battle. Now, if we're talking about X Factor, one of the X Factors I feel could be key in this series for the Knicks would be none other than Grand Theft Alvarado. This is where New York can gain a little edge, as this young man brings full court pressure. He picks up ball handlers 94 feet, forcing them to burn clock, disrupting their rhythm, and forcing them into late offense as the shot clock is winding down. He can create opportunities for the Knicks in transition with his defense. He can impact the game without even scoring, which is always something to be mindful of. Now, the live ball steals can turn into instant transition points, and in the playoffs, those momentum swings, they matter. They could be the very big difference between losing a game and being down 0-2, winning a game and tying the series, or even winning a game and moving on to the next round. Momentum can change a lot in playoffs. Now, offensively, he's more of a connector. He keeps that second unit organized, and he does so without sacrificing on his defensive intensity. So, another battle that has been key in this matchup between the two teams that came to fruition through the regular season was the front court battle. Karl-Anthony Towns versus Onyeka Okongwu. Now, Karl-Anthony Towns is the mismatch. He creates issues with spacing, scoring, and rebounding. And Okongwu's job will be to stay attached to him on the perimeter, hold his ground in the paint, and most importantly, secure the rebounds. Because if the Knicks win the rebounding battle, this series will tilt so fast. Depth on any team is a plus in the playoffs. And every time there is a playoff battle, we always want to look at the bench to see which unit from each respective team can have a greater impact than the other when the starters are off the floor and getting their rest. So the Knicks' identity for their bench is primarily a defensive unit, although they do have some players. Jordan Clarkson has been a player for a number of years who's shown he can get buckets. But primarily with Mitchell Robinson, Alvarado, to name a few for the Knicks, those are players who are probably defined more for what they do in terms of rebounding for Mitchell and, creating creating transition opportunities on the defensive end for Alvarado. So with the Knicks bench, you're talking about defense. They come with a little bit more structure and physicality. Mitchell Robinson can provide them for extra possessions with his outstanding rebounding abilities, whereas the Hawks have more athleticism. They have a lot of players that can. They'll have few players off their bench that are capable of giving you 20 plus points a night, from Kuminga to name a few, Jonathan Kuminga. And they want to keep that pace. They want to keep that high tempo, that up tempo pace going, even when their starters are off the floor. So this is battle of discipline versus explosiveness, and whichever bench unit can be more consistent and can make more impactful plays could very well be the team that ends up winning this series. Now, as far as the path that each team will need to take to move on from this first round, the Knicks will need to control the tempo. They will definitely have to take care of business on the glass and force half-court execution, force the Hawks to play at their pace in a more half-court, grinded-out style of play. Hawks, if they're trying to move on and get this series, they definitely got to make sure this game is sped up, create turnovers, and heat up from three. Now, let's go ahead and head out west, because this one feels like a conference finals matchup in the first round between the Nuggets and the Timberwolves. Now, these two teams have met over the last few years on several occasions in the playoffs. In the series have been very good, been very compelling, been very competitive. And while I was hoping this would be a matchup later on in the playoffs, the West is so good that unfortunately this is a first round matchup. So Denver comes into this playoffs on a 12-game win streak, displaying the best offense in all of basketball. Minnesota on the other hand, have been up and down lately, but they have a defense. So anytime you have a good defense, you have a chance as far as I'm concerned. So one of the major matchups obviously is the Jokić factor and the wall that Minnesota will try to build around him. And that will be Jokić versus Gobert, Naz Reid, maybe even some Julian Randle from time to time. This will be a battle of attrition. So they're going to look to, rim protection. They're going to look for rim protection, physicality, and weak side help, discipline to help slow down Jokić, if that's even such a word. But if Jokić is reading the floor comfortably, Denver will be in control and move on to the next round. But the individual matchup, that's definitely hoping will be as good as advertised. It's going to be that matchup of Jamal Murray versus Anthony Edwards. Two elite scorers, two players with totally different styles. We're talking Murray with his shot making and precision, and Edwards with his downhill pressure and explosiveness. Both can take over games, so whichever one is on their game is definitely going to put their team in the best position to win and advance. Another underrated matchup, not so much underrated, but one that could be flying under the radar, could be that matchup between Aaron Gordon and Julius Randle. Gordon is one of the defensive glue guys for Denver. Solid off-ball cutter and an improved outside shooter, whereas Julius Randle is a downhill force when he's on his game and an evolving playmaker. Now, if Randle wins this matchup, Minnesota may be able to unlock another level offensively. As far as an X factor for the Timberwolves or for this series, I would probably say the addition of Ayo Dosunmu. They made the decision to make a trade for him mid-season to bring in his transition offense, his outside shooting, and his solid defensive ability. He has been impactful in transition. He's one of those guys that pushes the pace immediately. He can be a one-man fast break if the situation presents itself. And he can also get up the court so fast that Denver may not always have an opportunity to set up their defense, so that could play into favor of Minnesota if he's able to do things like that. Like I said before, he can be a secondary playmaker, taking pressure off of Edwards and keeping the offense flowing. As far as him helping out on the defensive assignment of Jamal Murray, he's going to definitely need to fight through some screens, stay attached, and try to disrupt his rhythm as best he can. And quietly, Ayo's a player who's shooting 41% from 3. So they won't be able to leave him open. So that obviously can open up opportunities for Anthony Edwards if they're in the game together and he's on his game. Now, Denver wins this series. Obviously, if Jokić is getting his fingerprint all over the series, controlling tempo, being excellent in that two-man game that him and Jamal Murray click so well on, and of course their efficiency holds as an overall team. Minnesota advances. They can rebound, disrupt Denver's rhythm, and of course if Anthony Edwards is doing Anthony Edwards-like things, definitely expect Minnesota to move on. Well, both series pretty much are going to come down to what they always do in the playoffs is identity. Knicks versus Hawks will present a team looking to control pace versus a team looking to be chaotic in their pace and just get out and go in transition. Denver Nuggets versus the Timberwolves will be a clash of a team that's precise on offense versus a disruptive defense, and the battle of who wins between someone being able to be precise with their offense despite a team being disruptive defensively, or will a defensive disrupting team be able to disrupt the offensive efficient team so much that it creates problems for them and it becomes a win for them. And the X factors from Alvarado to Okongwu to Dosunmu could very well decide everything in this series. So now I'm asking you all, which underdog has the best chance to win? And who's your breakout player in this first round? Drop your takes in the comments and make sure you like, subscribe, stay locked in with the Perimeter Defense Basketball Podcast. We've got playoff breakdowns coming all playoffs long. I'll catch you all on the next side. Later.